Not only did China build the 6th generation when it comes to their Air Force and building this new jet that no one can seem to stop, they just unrolled something even more deadly and more dangerous. We'll talk about that today and what they're working on. Also, we're going to discuss what food that we should not be eating. What's affecting our meat? And now a story came out and leaked exactly what is happening to the meat that we are ingesting in our bodies. Is it contaminated? So let's talk about that and make sure that you're eating the best quality meat and not some of this, like you typically see just about everywhere. Also, we're going to discuss how Democratic lawmakers are saying they can stop Trump from being president. Can they actually stop him? And what is their plan? And then we're going to discuss a Democrat Speaker of the House. How close are we to that? When the fact that Mike Johnson may be out, he's trying to make a quick vote happen. However, remember, Republicans with 3 members, Gates, Stefanik, and Walsh, now not in the actual House. This is almost like a dead even situation. One more problem with the Republican, and you've got a Democratic-led speakership. Crazy times we live in. I think all this revolves around trying to make sure that Trump has a hard time getting in and then a hard time leading because he's pushing against the narrative. Let's dive into these stories and so much more. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about today's content. Our goal is to give you good information that will help you prepare yourself and your family as you go through this crazy world that we live in. Now remember, we have another channel, Life with Kobe Mack. It is a channel we're trying to grow because we want to show you exactly how we raise our animals, how we live sustainable, how we do what we call life, the kind of behind the scenes of this channel. Today we're actually doing a processing of birds, so we're going to be filming that, and that video will go out tomorrow. So it shows truly how we have sustainable life on our farm and how we want to encourage you to do the same thing as you start 2025. Now let's talk about the stories of the day, and then we will get to doing some processing of chickens. Number 1, can Trump be stopped? And there's a new story with 2 lawmakers and really 2 lawyers working with lawmakers stating that we can stop Trump, especially if we can get the Democrats to sign on to this. What they're trying to say is he could be disqualified because of the 14th Amendment, dealing with insurrection. Now it's funny how these lawyers and these lawmakers are trying to insurrect the vote that just took place. What they're saying is they can turn around and use the fact that Electoral College was not really voted and certified like it's supposed to, and that he can't even be qualified because of the 14th Amendment. Now, you think this is a long shot, but don't underestimate the power of the Washington swamp. You're starting to hear this traction. This is the 2nd day in a row that you're starting to hear more and more people throw it out there. Listen to legacy media. They're actually even talking about it themselves. Now, I think this is preposterous. I think it's funny that it's really like an oxymoron that they're saying because Trump committed Electoral College problems, and because of the insurrection that he pushed, which he didn't, by the way, it's all fake, they're going to insurrect this election. Isn't it funny how that works? Now I'll talk about something else. You know, yesterday we discussed the 6th generation aircraft with China. They just unveiled, and this is from Disclosed TV, it says, China has launched the world's largest amphibious assault ship in the latest demonstration of how Beijing's industrial capabilities and power and capacity of strengthening of its military is taking force. So now we have some kind of jet that we can't figure out how to replicate and also how to control. We also now have the biggest amphibious style ship that's an assault style ship, so like a warship that could do dangers and detriments all over the world, and it is stronger and more advanced than we have here in America. So that's 2 days, 2 major stories of what Beijing is showing. Are they just showing imminent warnings to us to say, you know what, don't mess around with us in Taiwan? because you don't have, first of all, you're too far away and you don't have the resources or the capabilities to do it. And to be honest with you, I wish we'd listen and say, look, we're going to stay out of there. We need to start building technology that can be used, but at the same time, not try to put in all over the world that we're going to please the world like we're trying to do. So is this something we should pay attention to? Is that, are they actually just showing this new stuff off to kind of be a detriment to us, causing problems for them with Taiwan? I think it could be. But now they are beating us in leaps and bounds in the air. We're supposed to have the strongest military when it comes to the Navy than any other person in the world, any other country in the world, and now they're releasing things that our Navy does not even have. Makes you think, what is our money being spent on for defense? Is it actually being spent on defense, or has it been spent on lobbyists and money kickbacks and port projects and DEI and all that? So this report shows, I think, the weakness of our American leadership and how they spent the money for the American military. If we want to rebuild our military, not to face wars, but to show power. One thing I've learned a long time ago, I can put up all the barbed wire I want for my cows. I want to put up as much as I can and tighten it all the time. Why? Because I want to have a force to be reckoned with. I don't want any cows out of that barbed wire. I want them in the barbed wire fence. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not a detriment for other animals coming in or humans coming in because they have to cross that same barbed wire. But the purpose is not to worry about what's outside the fence. It's about what's inside the fence. Now, let's take that same illustration for us. Our goal is to build the biggest, strongest, most elite military ever. It's not to say that we're worried about everybody else's wars. It's the fact of protection here. We're protecting what we have here. It's like the barbed wire. We protect what's inside the barbed wire here at our house on our farm. Let's do the same thing and think about it that way. We build the biggest military up not to push out. I don't build the barbed wire fence to leave the gate open so the cows can go. You get what I'm saying? It makes no sense. So if we can do what China's doing, one thing China has done very well is they've built their military up and really left everybody alone. They've negotiated, rebuilt cities and towns and negotiated the Belt and Road Initiative. I'm not saying they've done something right. I'm just saying they're actually doing what real diplomacy looks like and real leadership looks like, where they're not starting wars all across the world and they're building their military up to defend more than it is to take over. Now, one day that may change and it may be a push to take over. But if we don't build our military up in elite force and start putting it back here to guard, then it's like leaving the cows fence tight, but the gate open. We can't do that in America. It's time to restructure and start to make our military as big as it needs to be, but not to defend other countries, but defend us. When we have strength here, it will have a better diplomacy out there. China's doing that now. They've built a new amphibious assault ship that we have never seen. Now, before we move on to the next subject, a word from today's sponsor. Have you ever Googled yourself and literally your family members and information of yours came up? The question always comes to mind is how much of my public information is actually on the World Wide Web, on the internet, where people could just access it. Not only that, think about all the spam calls you get, all the spam emails you get. I get several a day and have to block and block and block. That's where my friends at Aura, the sponsor of today's video, can help. Aura will help remove your personal information from data brokers and people searching sites to sell your information from and to identity thieves and scammers and more. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, your house number, your phone number. And not only do they check it and monitor it, they will alert you if all of a sudden they find that your information has been compromised. Also, Aura VPN. VPN protects you on the internet, and this was with military-grade protection when it comes to Aura's VPN. It blocks all scam and phishing sites from getting your information in your accounts. What about an antivirus? What about a password manager? 24/7 US-based support. I get all this in one app called Aura. I do not want to leave myself vulnerable. We talk about it all the time. We live in a digitized world. The last thing I want to do is protect my home and not protect myself online. Check out aura.com/themax today. You will not be sorry that you did. My information is mine. My social is my social. My address is mine. The last thing I want is someone else to have it. You can go to my link below, aura.com/themax, and get 2 weeks free. That will be enough for you to see how Aura is an asset to you, because you're gonna realize how much you're exposed online. Stop leaving yourself vulnerable. Check out Aura today. Link is in the description. Thank you so much, Aura, for sponsoring today's video. Speaking of protection, this is another article. They're thinking it could be terrorism, and they're blaming Russia, and they even, one report blames China. But if you remember a few weeks ago, there's been 2 cable cuts in the Baltic areas and Eastern European areas. Those cables run specific telecommunications and communication systems technology across that part of Europe and part of the Eastern, really close to Russia area. Now, there's a new report that shows terrorism cannot be ruled out for another underwater cable has been cut in the Northern Europe area. Now, I want you to think about this. If communication starts getting cut, they were on the Eastern front, now they're on the Northern side. What's to say they're not going to come on and move around? Now, why is this important? It's because we've developed a liking to technology. Just like my sponsorship said, we love being able to use the technology. However, we're not protecting ourselves from the dangers and threats of it. Now, yes, things like Aura will protect you personally, but what happens when the nations can't protect their own infrastructure when it comes to the dangers of technology and communications? I want you to think just for a second on a small scale, at your home. If you did not have a way to communicate, and you did not have a way to get your information out, and you did not have a way to get information in, such as news and understanding what's going on. Say all of a sudden you hear all this kind of catastrophic events and you see all this big explosions all around your home, but you have no access to your phone, you have no access to your networks, you have no access to your TVs, you have no access of getting information in or out. That would cause a slight panic, wouldn't it? Okay, now let's put that on a bigger scale, kind of what's happening here. The more that these cables are cut, the more sabotaging that's happening, the more acts of terror that happen with our communications and with our firewalls and blackouts and all this stuff. If we see more sabotaging with the ones and zeros, meaning communication technology, the more vulnerable we become, because we have built our whole life around communication, around technology, around getting information to us at just about any time we want it. The more we see these cable cuts, the more we see the dangers of this. It shows that we put this stuff in there thinking it's always safe. And now there's some kind of ships, there's some kind of somebody doing something down there that's cutting these lines. Now let's take this in a different area. Infrastructure. If you remember, the pipelines have been blown up, going to Russia and going to Germany, and it's all going in the sea. What this means is this: we've developed a new style warfare where we can cut them off and isolate people to a point where they're not getting energy and utilities, communications. It's like what you're doing is you're doing what they call a choke out, to where you're cutting off all benefits to a group of individuals where they become in need of help. When people become in need of help, they panic, they worry, and they reach out. I think of a bird's nest. A bird's nest is sitting there and it's made high to where those eggs sit below, and then those chirping chicks stay in there. The point of that nest is to keep the birds from going out. Remember, the birds have nothing unless the mom brings it to them. Well, if we keep seeing these situations with sabotaging of lines and communications, sabotaging of energy and utilities and pipelines, stopping the ships from moving in the Red Sea, what we're doing is we're building a bigger nest around us to where the only way that we can look is for government to help us out, because there's no other help coming from our other people. No communication, no utilities coming in, no goods coming in. This is foreshadowing of, I think, tougher times that are coming, not just in 2025, but overall what we're doing is we're building a world based on technology, such as even our money, to then see the sabotaging of the communications and telecommunications and phone systems, to then turn around and say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do when we have everything on our technology and devices? How can we be safe? What are we to do when all of a sudden we can't get energy utilities because there's been sabotaging of lines and pipelines? So when it comes to, again, protection, I think our countries are failing us because the purpose of them putting that stuff in is to protect it. It's strategic, so you would think they could protect it. Think of America. How many times have you seen grid issues with a bird hitting it, or an issue where in Utah where the girl was climbing on the energy tower and it shut down power for a big place, shut down power for a long time in that area? Sometimes I think that we're putting our eyes and focus on the wrong things instead of the things that are the most vulnerable. Our technology, our communications, our grid, our utilities, our energy. When we take our eyes off those things, I think what you're going to see is just what we're doing. We're doing a choke out. You're seeing people, someone is cutting ties and sabotaging the lines that run communications and energy to parts of Europe. They've hit the eastern, southeastern side. Now they're on the northern side. What's next? And why is no one actually saying, we're going to start defending it instead of just keep on letting it happen? There was Chinese ships in certain areas. There was Russian ships in certain areas. But bottom line is, it don't matter who you think it was. You're the one that lost all communications because these cables are cut. We need to pay attention to these stories. Again, the things that we're talking about today are things that are just saying, look at them. Look at what is happening around our world. And again, do you know where Biden is? He's literally just flew to the Virgin Islands for another vacation. Literally. Google it. Air Force One landed in Virgin Islands, I think, yesterday for another vacation. Talking about America on fire. We can't seem to balance ourselves out and make sure America is safe, and then much more all the other situations in the world. We're looking weak. And last story I want to talk about today. For instance, we're going to butcher chickens. I told you before, I cannot stand butchering chickens. It's the worst thing on my farm, truthfully. Pork butchering, slaughtering, hunting, breaking down other things are not nearly as bad. I just don't like chicken. But I do it because I know we need the chicken, and I know it's a sustainable part of our farm. This morning it was flooding rain, and we're outside trying to make sure our animals are okay, and we're milking. Why do we do that? Prime example. Here's a story I want you to pay attention to. This was released, and it says, a health concern, contaminated pork alert. Not just pigs, but so much more when it comes to all your meat. All across the United States, pigs can be put stuff in, if you know what I mean, with millions of deadly versions in here of different things to quote unquote help them from having clotting agents, help them to live in the homes that they live in as they're getting ready to get processed. They can give them all this stuff without your knowledge, and they can, because of the way the law is interpreted, they're able to do it without you having knowledge of it. Now here's the problem. Pork producers in America have been administering these based gene therapies to pigs, secretly contaminated pork with assembling nanoparticles. Harris Vaccines pioneered this based livestock shot. It was acquired by Merck Animal Health. It has been an unregulated gene therapy that has been used by the livestock sector. Now these companies are trying to expand this same thing into avian situations where this influenza is happening. They're going to start putting this in your birds and your cattle now, prompting a need of transparency, because for so long it's been underregulated or not regulated at all. So a lot of this things that are quote unquote helping the animal, that's the way they sell it. It's helping the animal. How did they sell thing when you're armed? They're helping you, they're keeping you safe. Well, they're doing the same thing with your animals. Well, now what they're realizing is it's contaminating the meat. And this interpretation and this new therapy, because it's not a antibiotic, it's not some kind of steroid, it gets around the terminology that the FDA and some of these other big producers utilize, so therefore they can push this stuff into your animals. They say, well, it's because, we want to make sure that they don't have any clot problems with blood. We want to make sure they're healthy as they get to you and they don't die before they get to you in the supermarket. What's happening is your food is so contaminated. I want you to listen to this. It says, there's never been a more telltale sign that the medical industry in America wants to harm Americans by now using this same quote-unquote technology, not only trying to push it into humans, now they're trying to push it into the animals. Now, we've heard this for a long time, but now the stories have come out and said this is actually happening. These animals were never in danger of contracting anything that these would need. But it was a way to get around, to get this into the bodies of people. I want my food to eat the best quality food, because I'm then turning around and eating that food. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's go back and hash that out. My pork, I don't give junk food to. Now, I know a lot of people that raise pigs, and they give them the most nasty, old, moldy food that they picked up at bakeries and all this stuff. Well, what you're doing is you're producing a hog made up of bad quality meat because you gave them bad quality food. Same with my chickens that we're butchering today. They have been raised on the utmost cleanest situation you can raise a chicken in. And also they have been literally raised with the best quality food. Some from our farm and some that we buy that's very, very, very safe. Actually, no soy, no corn, none of that GMO garbage. Why? Because I want whatever they're eating to make sure that when I turn around and harvest those and harvest whatever animal, that I'm getting it the best version of itself for my diet. Well, what's happening is, in the cases like this, because they can get around the law and get around the regulation, the crap that you're eating in the supermarket that you're buying for cheap, that meat actually is not the best quality meat for you. And the thing is this, what that meat took in and what that whatever bird or pig or cow took in, now you're ingesting that. Now think about that for a second. Why here's another thought. Why do you think the food and pharma is so close when it comes to big industry? Big ag has been overtaken by pharma and the products of herbicides, fungicides, and fertilizers. Why do you think that is? Isn't it amazing how they go hand in hand? They can raise your crops, and then when your crops are not the best quality and they make you sick, then they can provide the medicine that they're needing, but then they can turn around and use that same pesticides and herbicides to treat the gardens and food again, and then they can start shooting this in your animals, all in the name of safety. But what did we talk about the other day? With a $50 billion bailout for pharma, with the fact that they really haven't given us any more extra life expectancy. Our mortality is not gained anymore. Our morbidities, meaning we have more sicknesses than we've ever had before. People are more unhealthy. Have you seen how many people are just overweight? They're morbid, even some that are obese, lethargic, lazy, and the health problems are going crazy. Remember, and I say this because it's really life. Hospitals are not hotels. Hotels make money when you go stay there. Well, hospitals and pharmacology does the same. They make no money if no one is sick and in need. Now, we all have a part of life. We're all going to have sicknesses, and we're all going to need things that God has blessed innovation for, such as medical benefits. But when we talk about this is not helping anyone. When you're trying to hide something and secretly put something into food because you can get around the legislation, I don't think that's actually helping anybody. I think it's actually harming us. So when I say do not eat pork, do not eat chicken, do not eat cow, do not eat beef, that goes along with do not eat vegetables that are GMO modified or that's been sprayed either. The thing is this, you have to know where your food comes from. If you're not buying from a holistic grocery store or a small mom and pop or a farmer that you can trust, then you better make sure that you're trying to grow it yourself. Because what we're seeing now is our food is actually maybe causing us more of the problems to then fill up that hotel hospital bed. To where we're not there to just stay overnight and sleep and then get up the next morning and go. It's because we're sick. Contamination is happening now more than ever because now they're realizing all this stuff that we're putting in our animals and food, it's not good for us. Isn't it funny how if we go back to how we raised food years ago, we'd realize that was the right way of doing it. What have we found out about seed oils? We found out that lard, butter, and good quality oil that they told you it was terrible for your cholesterol and terrible for you and it's going to kill you, actually is what we're going back to because we realize it's good for us compared to the processed junk that they've told you that was good for you and cleaner for you and easier for you and cheaper for you, and now we're realizing how harmful it actually is for you. It all is a big circles, guys. Think about what your grandma, great-grandmother, or our great-great-grandparents would have told you and how they raised their food and how they lived. Nothing's wrong with technology like we talked about. And you need to be protected by Aura when you go and get on your phones and get on your tablets. But when it comes down to it, if you're not raising your own food, you better be making sure you know who is. When you talk about protection and our military is struggling, but other areas are building up these just innovative technologies, but we're worried about, inclusive classes for our military and policing the world, then that means you better start protecting yourself. Everything that we talk about each and every day is to make you better and to make you more wiser, to seek wisdom and guidance. And of course, we always say look at a spiritual aspect of it too. Pray for our nation. Pray that we turn back and start making changes to the America that we've built. Here's another startling statistic. It says our education sector is at an all-time low. Education is failing our students. The fact that our kids are not learning anything, the fact they're coming out of school not as smart as they should be when they go into college or into their jobs. Now, at the same time, you can look at a chart of morals and values and the breakdown of families. When you see the breakdown of our families, when you see the breakdown of our morals and values, it literally runs at the same. As it increases of the breakdown of the family and morals and values, the education levels start dropping. It's almost a mirror image of itself. We need to turn back to living like we used to live. Nothing's wrong with innovation and technology, but let's think about raising our own food. Let's think about making sure we're protecting our family. Let's build skills back up and start being better for 2025. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this video and all these things going on. Remember to check out the other channel, Life with Kobe Mag. Check out my wife's channel, The Max Life. You will see the butchering of you'll see the processing we're going to be doing today over the coming days. Check that out. I want to encourage you to do this. It's hard work. I mean, it's hard, but it's worth it when you know your food has not got this in it, like the story just said. Guys, thank you for watching. God bless you. We'll see you on the next one.